Hi guys, and welcome to another video with myself, Ray Qureshi. First of all, thank you so much for the 1K subscribers, man. Seriously, we just started this as a little bit of a hobby and really got some fantastic views, fantastic comments, fantastic guests, and obviously subscribers. And who else to celebrate my 1,000 party of subscribers than with Planet FPL's James? James, man, how in the devil are you, pal?
I'm good, mate. Many congrats on hitting the 1K. I might stop it dead for you in its tracks now.
Exclaimer, guys, this might be the last video. We don't know. It depends what happens.
Could be, yeah. We've got the bleep machine ready.
No, but as you want, man. As you want. It's completely open. But before we start, a little bit of blowing smoke off James, but he inspired me. He really inspired me to do these kind of videos. And the reason is because I was a patron with you guys a good 18 months ago, I think, and stopped just because I just didn't have time to listen to all the great content.
Because we were rubbish.
Prices went up.
No, they didn't. Don't lie.
They didn't. They legit didn't. He had a go at me and he goes, "Ray, why you paid so early?" I said, "Because I want to give you money." And he's like, "You idiot." But you guys balance FPL with just common football knowledge so well, and that inspired me to do something like this. And I thought, what better way than take the FPL manager as the football fan, because that's where the love starts, and learn more about them as football fans for their team. So, and I've got a lot of different. It's almost like I've got a lot of different characters than when you watch them do their FPL videos. Like I had TED Talks, and he was just rambling on, and I just loved it. So, yeah, man. So thank you for this madness, pal. Really appreciate it, man.
You're
Awesome.
very welcome, mate. The madness comes out in the fan, in all of us, right? Everyone might be quite straight laced trying to give FPL advice. The devil in you comes out when you start speaking about football fandom.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's crack on, man. So before we start about James the supporter, what about James the man? Maybe you can give me a little inkling about the individual, man. Who are you?
Who am I? I'm James. I am gonna be. You have to count back in years once you get to my age. I'm gonna be 38 in a couple of months. I've got a little one now. Harry will be 3 years old next month. Actually,
Amazing.
Married to my wife, Planet FPL wife, Katie Ann. We've been married for, don't get this wrong, James, over 4 years now. Yeah, and obviously I do Planet FPL podcast with Surge, which we've been doing now as well for just over 4 years, and it's going well. I'm lucky. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I enjoy my personal life. I enjoy my work life. I'm very privileged. I'm well aware.
Wow, man. Well deserved, pal. You're brilliant at what you do, and you know I've said that to you before. And pretty genuine person, man. The 37-year-old army man. I'm with you. So yeah, I feel you.
Same
Man.
age.
Yeah.
You're looking better than me, mate. Mind you, the hair on both of us tells the story, doesn't it?
You know what, man? I'm hanging on by a thread, and when I mean thread, I'm literally mean thread. It's spinning every day.
To be honest, Ray, I'll stop trying to hang on, mate.
You know what? Just shave it off.
That's it, mate.
Class. So fantastic. So let's go to your history as a Spurs fan. Where did it all start, man?
It started with I wasn't given a choice by my father. So Spurs in the family runs through generations, goes back prior to my dad's took my dad to Tottenham. And he and my mum did the same. The first place my dad ever took my mum on a date was White Hart Lane. Enough. I want to say it was either 1979 or 1980. She must have realised at that point she was making a massive mistake. It's probably regretted knowing my dad for everything since. Although she'll tell you that I was worth it, probably.
Of course.
And I've had a season ticket at Tottenham since the 1990-91 season. In that period of the 31 years that have gone since, the only home games I've ever missed, including friendlies, is when this outbreak happened and the bastards wouldn't let me go, basically, mate. That's it. I've never missed a game. I go away from home whenever I can. I tend to go to the 3 o'clock games, or I'm going to like Everton in a couple of weeks, Burnley in a few weeks. The games are away from home that are perhaps on a Saturday or Sunday that aren't on the TV. I can't be dealing with the dodgy stream stuff. It's not viable to go to all 38 away games anymore. But at a period before I started the podcast, I was going to probably 75% of the away games or so. So I'm in a position where I've got enough loyalty points that I nearly always get in. They're not always good, Ray. Like I went to Arsenal the other week, mate. Not fun.
I'm not one of those fans, man.
we suffer. We've had the highs and lows. Doesn't matter who you support. You will have had highs and lows. It feels like we're in a real low point at the moment. But it's relative, right? I'm in low point. I'm challenging. I'm in European competition. I think it's partly because we experienced such highs in the Pochettino era that right now feels rubbish. Whereas if this is just how it had been 15 years ago, I'd have gone, no, it's all right. It's okay.
Safe.
Because we had them big highs, the expectations change.
Yeah. That's a fantastic segue into my next section, pal. So expectations this season. So it was
limited.
a crazy summer with your 17th choice manager, it feels. Great start. And I think his video is gone. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can. I don't know where the video's gone for some reason.
Come back, man. You're a handsome fella. Come on.
I don't know what's happened there, mate. Literally just went off. In fact.
Okay, guys. James is just gone. So until he comes back on. Yeah, what do I share here? Okay. Yep, he's back on. He's back on. Brilliant. Muted.
Sorry, don't know what happened there.
No. I put on the elevator music.
That's about all I'm worthy of, the elevator music. Expectations. I've had worse.
This
Expectations
is a car crash, man.
for the
what
season.
Are you doing to me?
when you said 17th, you're not far off. It was about the 12th that Tottenham went to, and in the end, they had to get someone with Premier League experience. Nuno was nowhere near a choice, and then it got towards the end of June, and they had to make a decision on something. And I think it was to say perfect marriage would be very far from the truth, but it's a situation that works for both the owners and Nuno. Nuno's got a chance at a top club after he kind of had a bad season at Wolves, which he was a little bit unlucky about in terms of he wanted to change the style when Raul Jimenez got injured within 5 minutes of the game that he tried to change the style in. They had a bad season from there on in. I think before Jimenez got injured, they were about 6th in the league, actually. They'd started really well. Had a disastrous season, really, from there on in. They weren't good to watch. Had gone from a side that was very competitive to being quite easily beatable, actually. He's going to struggle because the team's quite poor at the moment, in all truth.
Is that more with morale, not quality? I mean, you're packed for quality.
It's not, mate. It's not. I've watched quality over the last 10 years, and this is not it at the moment.
I'm putting too much into Son and Kane, I think.
Well, exactly that. I mean, if you take Kane and Son out of that team, then to be honest, it's a bottom half team. I think our level right now is competing with the likes of West Ham and Arsenal, and I would make a case that probably both of those two clubs at the moment are actually a little bit stronger than us. But we're capable of finishing above them. And should Manchester United have a disaster and us be consistent, there is a miracle chance of finishing 4th. But the expectations for this season, all I wanted this season off the back of the previous manager was to enjoy the football again. And I did opening day of the season against Man City. I did in the pre-season games. I was really impressed with what I saw in pre-season, actually. Absolutely. And the previous game against Aston Villa was good, was much better. We well deserved to win, should have won by more, actually. And that's the only real expectation at the moment, because the legacy of the previous manager is that Nuno's been left with the most unfit squad in the league, who have been kind of brainwashed to play negative football. And he's not the sort of manager who wants to play expansive football anyway. So it's a balancing act for him between trying to get us to play more attractive football, winning football, and also live up to Daniel Levy's comments, because Daniel dug his own grave last May when he said we need to go back to the Tottenham DNA of expansive football and bringing.
He got a mini Jose. He got a mini Jose.
And to be honest, there is a fair case to say he might have just appointed Nuno Mark II. He obviously appointed Fabio Paratici as the technical director, and essentially Nuno is Paratici's choice because the deal was in place finally for Paulo Fonseca, and then Paratici went back on it. Fonseca, if you look at his statistics at his clubs, like disastrous defensively, but it could have been quite a lot of fun. And I think I was well up for that, actually, having looked into him. Whereas it turns out that Paratici actually really wanted quite a defensive coach, which is against everything that Levy said that he wanted. And Levy appointed Paratici. So they're already on a collision course, potentially. There obviously isn't huge amounts of money to spend off the back of COVID, and obviously we're trying to budget for what we're doing off the back of the brilliant new stadium and stuff as well. So there are no major expectations for this year, Ray. I want the football to be better. If we can go on that silly Thursday night competition, that would be amazing, and that's a realistic get. Because of the teams in it currently, you would say us and Roma would be the favourites to win that trophy. Ironically, Mourinho's Roma, of course. I know this is going to come back and bite me. And there might be a few good teams drop out of the Europa League in the latter stages as well, but it's definitely a realistic aim to try and win that competition this year, which, I mean, if we finished 8th or 9th for A and won that trophy this year, I'd take that.
Yeah, I mean, there was a bit to unpack there, but the stuff I really latched onto was, I mean, what's Levy expecting this season? I mean, because, you got a Jose Mark II, as, I concur with you. Like, what's he expecting with Nuno? I mean, any clue, really? I mean, stability, maybe?
According to The Athletic, supposedly there's a release contract that if Tottenham don't finish in the top 6 this year, they can sack him with no compensation at the end of the year. The fact that they've only given him a 2-year contract in the first place tells you all you need to know. As I said, it worked for Nuno. Nuno knows that he's probably not in the job for a long term, but it keeps his name in the spotlight at a top club. And if he does okay this year, he might then get other jobs off the back of that as well. So I think both sides of the party know it's not a long-term gig. Like, I'd be astonished if Nuno Santo was Tottenham manager going into 23, 24. He would have to do amazing. And I think that probably means I think it probably would mean qualifying for the Champions League, to be honest, for him to still be in the job at that stage. So it's short term. I'm fairly convinced that should it hit the fan for Pochettino at Paris Saint-Germain, that they'll just go and get him back. He wants to come back. Part of the reason Pochettino wants to come back is because his family's still living in London.
Right.
Because his boy Maurizio, with a Z, he's now at Watford. So Poch's other half and the majority of the family are still here.
Wow.
And that's why in the summer, when it came about that the Tottenham job could come back up, he wanted to leave Paris Saint-Germain. And you look at it on the face of it and go, madness. He's not leaving Neymar and the possibility of Messi to go back to Tottenham. But
he might be let go before he has to make that decision.
It wasn't for Tottenham. It was for his family.
Right.
And I actually think that reappointing him would be a mistake. I don't think in the long term, in the best years that we've had with Pochettino, and I'd rather have Pochettino than Nuno, for example, and obviously definitely over the previous manager. But there are still players there who let Pochettino down. And until they're all gone, I don't think Tottenham should go back.
Agree. In regards to Poch himself, because you kind of answered my question, is I don't know how much longer he has with Paris Saint-Germain, because he's really struggling at the moment, obviously, to fit all of that talent in there. And I just think it's counterintuitive almost to try and fit all 4 in. You got to sacrifice one, and that's probably Di Maria. Do you think in the next coming months, Poch might be let go? And if he's let go, what do you think Tottenham will do? Do you think they'll go after him?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no,
like next month. If it was next month.
Yeah.
You could see it happening.
Yeah, I think they'd sack Nuno and just get him back. Yeah, I really do. The only way I could see that against is if Nuno had an amazing run and suddenly we were kind of 3rd, 4th, and you think, well, stay with it. I can't see that happening because the quality of the squad's not good enough, and I don't think it's a manager he's necessarily got the capability to push them towards consistent victories. Okay. But I think as long as Pochettino's Champions League results are okay, Ray, he'd be all right. So like the win against Man City was a big deal. Yeah. If he'd lost that, then I think it might have been getting mentioned. But while they're in a decent position in the Champions League, I mean, they should stroll to Liga. And I know they lost to Rennes the other day, but they should stroll to it, really. Yeah. I can't see it changing while they're doing all right in the Champions League. So, plus, they made such a fuss of keeping him, right?
That's true.
They didn't want to let him go. So,
yeah. Shit. Europa Conference League. I mean,
it's a thrill.
I was very happy when you guys finished above us. That's all I want to say. I think it's the first time I'm like, I don't know if I was
it. Do you know what? I never got all that nonsense. Final day, people saying, "Oh, I'd rather have finished below Arsenal and not be in that competition." The great Bill Nicholson said about Tottenham, who was obviously Tottenham's double-winning manager, "This football club is nothing if it's not in European football." And you can laugh at the quality of the European football, but I've just told you in terms of expectations this season, the priority might come towards trying to win that competition. And it just ends. People can say afterwards, "Oh, it's Mickey Mouse, whatever." but it just puts to bed the 13-year wait without a trophy, and then it's done. Like if Nuno can pull that off this year, great. I think it will end up becoming the priority for Tottenham this season as it goes on. You'd have to be drunk not to get out of the group at the moment. And to be fair, we are capable of being drunk.
No, the quality will shine through. Come on, man. You're not that bad. I'm an Arsenal fan and I'm saying that, man. What would my stupid peers say?
I think the Arsenal fan watched what Tottenham were really like a couple of weeks ago, unfortunately, mate. Or fortunately for you, obviously.
Oh, I was way too tribal.
Anyway,
I had to delete everything.
Yeah, move that. Cut this bit out.
So if you win this competition, is it a competition for you? Does that make sense? I don't even know how to phrase that.
Yeah, I don't care, mate.
Since 2008, that's it
just
now.
give me the trophy.
When one day Ramos won. I remember that game.
And I would far rather, like, in all honesty, like the obvious question is, would you rather win that cup or would you rather finish fourth? Well, I'd rather finish fourth, because for the status of the football club at the moment, it's far more important for us to actually get back on terms of the quality football that we want to see, etc. Get back to that level, improve the squad, etc. But that's I could only see fourth coming up if Tottenham could show amazing consistency and if Manchester United really were to fall over themselves. And I can't see it. As I said, like, I generally think Arsenal and West Ham are stronger than Tottenham at the moment. But as you know, with Arsenal, this week's good form is next week's disaster and stuff. And West Ham, I think, have already lost more home games this season with a crowd than what they lost without a crowd last year, which I'll be reminding Suj about on Tottenham this coming week. But yeah, no, 100% take it as a trophy. Listen, if I'm in there in Albania celebrating next May and people are going, "That's Mickey Mouse competition," I don't care, mate. We'd be the only English club that's ever won it, mate.
You never forget your first time.
we'd be the only ones that's ever been in it. But I mean, like, even ironically, like, so Leicester have not started well in the Europa League. They could drop into it.
That's right. And if you two played each other tomorrow, I'd still fancy Spurs.
I think, to be honest,
in a one-off game.
If the game was, it would be 2 legs. If the game was tomorrow with no Fofana and no Wilfred and Diddy, then yeah, I would fancy it. But by the time it comes around the knockout stage, it's not necessarily, mate.
There's a great point you made, and I quickly added the banner now. And I've been having constant disputes about this for years. Is would I rather take a cup run or qualifying for the Champions League or qualifying for Europe, right? Now, 20 years down the line, I don't give a shit if Arsenal have qualified for 17 Champions Leagues in a row. You know what I mean? I want the glory of the cup wins and the trophies. So I would always take an FA Cup win over a Champions League qualification. And people shoot me down. I'm like, yeah, but where's the glory? Where's the glory in finishing fourth? Especially in a competition where we're never a threat. We're there for the payday and to make up the numbers. And I feel you're an educated enough fan for me to ask you this question hey, James, I'm going to give you an FA Cup win or I'm going to give you a Champions League qualification this year. What would you take and why? As a Spurs fan.
You ask me most seasons, I would say the cup win.
Okay.
But I think at the moment, the football club's in a bad state. And the football club needs sorting out first and foremost in terms of the management, the players, or even if we finished fourth, you could even sack Nuno. And then, maybe you can go back and ask the proper question of someone like Antonio Conte, for example, or another. So I think the priority this season would be to try and finish top 4. Now, that's not going to happen anyway. But most of the time, I would want the trophy. Unfortunately, money's dominated the game.
Tell me about it.
To make it go this way.
Yeah.
There's so much pressure on it. And for Tottenham now with the stadium as well, I don't really want to be going to that stadium on Thursday nights. I want to be going on Tuesday or Wednesday nights. But I accept that obviously Champions League is miles off at the moment. Like, I think right now it would be unrealistic for Tottenham to expect to qualify for the Champions League next season. Never mind this season, because of the state of the squad. For me, it's just not good enough. If you lose Kane or Son for any serious period of time, we're in massive trouble. That's the reality.
Yeah, sure.
But they're obviously capable of beating anyone on their day. 9 times out of 10, mate, I would say I'd take the trophy. But actually, this year, if we could miraculously pull off fourth, I'd take that. Would be the priority to fix the football club. As Pochettino said, I think Pochettino changed our mentality a bit as well, because the one thing Poch obviously got regularly criticised for was not winning a trophy.
Right.
He didn't give a shite about the domestic cups till we hit like the semi-finals and stuff.
Yeah.
His mentality to it always was, if we won a Carabao Cup or an FA Cup, great, it's on the history books, but it doesn't actually change anything for going forward. Whereas his opinion was that winning a league title or a Champions League was like the pinnacle of what you can do. And he put all his eggs into trying to win the big ones. And the reality is, he nearly did it. He nearly did bring home one of the big ones, which before he walked in the door, he inherited such a mess. It was completely unrealistic to ever believe that Tottenham would be in a Champions League final or to finish a league season on 86 points.
Amazing.
And he achieved both. That season we finished on 86, which is the Chelsea season, not the Leicester season.
Right.
Like that team would have won the title in a number of other years.
Yeah.
Including the year before, ironically. Obviously. We know how this works for Tottenham.
86 points is like a comfortable third place nowadays, isn't it? I mean, it feels like you need the 90s now to win the league. But
well, City and Liverpool have obviously kind of raised the bar. I mean, that year Chelsea finished on 95. But remember, the year before that, obviously Leicester won the title. We finished on 81.
Yeah.
Arsenal ended up finishing second with what, 71, 72? I mean, it was a car crash of a season the year before.
Yeah. Fantastic, man. So on to finer times. We will go to James's Ultimate 11. So James was kind enough to give me his all-time 11, I guess, from the time that you've been watching, which is exactly what I wanted. So for those who will listen, we got Lloris in goal, Walker, Alderweireld, Ledley King. I love Ledley King myself. Danny Rose, Modric, Dembele, Bale, Gascoigne, Ginola, Kane. I mean, that front four is just ridiculous. My God, what it would do to teams. But well, maybe you can run through it, mate.
the beauty of that as well is it wouldn't have to be 4-2-3-1. It could be 4-3-3. You could drop Gascoigne in deeper, put Modric at 10. There's loads of different things you could do with it. It could very easily be a 4-3-3. Yeah, I mean, it's an impressive looking team when I look at it. Makes me want to smile. How many of the current team are in there? Oh, okay, just one. Oh, no, two, actually, because of the goalkeeper, of course. Hugo is one who, when he leaves, people will realise how good he was.
Yeah.
I think he gets a load of stick from Tottenham fans because he's kicking and his distribution is not the best. But as a shot stopper, he's first class. He's still absolutely brilliant for me. And he certainly puts more points on the board for us each season than what he costs us. Top goalkeeper, comfortably the best I've seen in my 30 years going to support Tottenham. That position would not even be up for debate.
Yeah. Keep going, please, man. Rattle on.
I shall. One that certainly is his right back. He's actually one of the closer ones to call because I was a big fan of Stephen Carr in the 90s. Yeah. Was brilliant for Tottenham at right back. Suffered horrendously because of injuries and actually left the club for Newcastle in 2004 and broke a lot of people's hearts at the time in doing so. But actually, he got offered a disgusting renewal contract offer, partly because of his injuries, which was just unacceptable. So he left and went to Newcastle. But it's not clear cut between Carr and Walker, actually. I think Walker, over the last few years at Spurs, would have edged ahead. I mean, that season that I've spoken about, the 16-17 season, him and Danny Rose on the other side are phenomenal. Rose goes in at left back as the best pure left back that we had in the 30 years I've gone. And to be fair, we have not been blessed with great left backs. There's not a great amount of choice there. Could have put perhaps Jan Vertonghen there at left back.
But Christian Ziege maybe? Or was he past his prime when he came from Liverpool? Yeah.
Past his prime when he came to us. Think Marcus Alonso in terms of, on the eye, great. We'll have a free kick from distance and defend. No. Danny Rose in that season got injured in January away to Sunderland. And had he not got injured, he would have won Tottenham's Player of the Year that year. Right. And that's the part of the best Tottenham team I've ever seen. And he was the best player in it for the first 4 or 5 months of that season. He would have walked it, honestly. So Danny Rose, for his form between probably 2015 and 17, up till kind of that injury at Sunderland, was the best I'd seen at left back for Tottenham. Centre back's a harder call because really Vertonghen's a player I wouldn't want to leave out of this. And I think when one of the problems with these players is you kind of remember the final days. Like, I don't want to remember the last I saw of Jan Vertonghen. I don't want to remember last year being the kind of last of Toby Alderweireld either. Jan was a Rolls Royce of a player and really should be in this team. But I think it would be close between him and Vertonghen, who was better. But Vertonghen was left-sided. Alderweireld was right-sided. Ledley King was commonly 9 times out of 10 left-sided centre-back, except maybe when he played with someone like Anthony Gardner. And it had to be Ledley over Jan. I mean, Ledley's my favourite ever player. Miraculous career that he had. He did the knee injury, which blighted his whole career in his first ever start for Tottenham.
Man.
It was never fit. 2 minutes into his full debut at Derby, game I was at Pride Park, he suffered a challenge with Rory Delap. We didn't know that there was anything of it. He got man of the match. We didn't see him again for 7 months. But that was the injury that blighted him for his whole career. And obviously in the final 5-6 years, it's common knowledge, like he could not even go and train. But he would rock up on a Saturday and be the best player on the pitch. Phenomenal defender of the game, incredible reading. And from that perspective, Toby Alderweireld was similar. What Toby obviously had that Ledley's distribution was very good. Toby could play scorching 60, 70-yard through balls to people, which was like a weapon. We'd have the ball in the back four and it was a weapon on the ball. Even last year, we'd look for Son so much with that pass and stuff.
Yeah.
Brilliant defender. Lost a bit of legs in the final sort of 18 months or so following the Champions League final. He was in and out of favour the year before that as well. First couple of years, phenomenal. I remember he pulled Marko Arnautovic in his home debut against Stoke, gave away a penalty. And he said after the game, I'll never make that mistake again. And for 2 years afterwards, I don't think I saw him put a foot wrong. It's phenomenal. It was 8 out of 10 every single week. Him and Vertonghen in those kind of 2-year period under Pochettino were the best centre-back partnership in this country.
Hands down. You know, I really thought Manchester United were going to get him, you know, because I think there was like a 35 million pound release clause.
That's right. Yeah, I think it was even less than that. I think it was 25, I think.
Oh my God, absolutely phenomenal player. But if we could go back one, Ledley King. I mean, Ledley King it's funny, you know, because I've tweeted you in the past and everything. He said Gareth Bale is probably my favourite ever Spurs players because of that season before he left. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, it's up there with Henry unbeaten year and Suarez that year. You know, it was just unreal, absolutely brilliant. But Ledley King is, for his time, and you know, we look at one who shall not be named out of respect for you. We look at Rio Ferdinand, we look at Vidic, we look at all these top centre halves, but Ledley King was absolutely unbelievable. And the fact that, did he go to a World Cup and didn't train at all?
Yeah, he was there in 2010 at the World Cup, and he obviously played in 2004. He was in the Euro squad and played really well, ironically, against Henry when Zidane scored 2 late goals for France.
Yeah.
John Terry,
James, mate.
John Terry didn't play. That's right, Steven Gerrard back pass. John Terry didn't play because I think he was suspended or he had a slight niggle, and Terry came straight back into the team, which I got. It was fair enough, but it was also very harsh on Ledley.
Yeah,
I mean, I would say that Ledley should have played with John Terry instead of he who shall not be named. Would have been certainly distribution-wise would have been a much better centre-back pairing.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I can tell you that for free. But yeah, with Ledley King, God knows what he would have been, James. It would have been very difficult.
That's the only other fair thing to say is, yeah, if had he not had the injuries, there's every chance he wouldn't be in this team because he would have gone and played for someone better.
Yeah.
Because he was good enough to play for anybody. And obviously no one would touch him because he wouldn't have passed the medical anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Midfield, pal.
Oh, I could spend hours on Moussa Dembele. That's the point where it went wrong for Tottenham was Moussa going. And it wasn't a bad decision for Tottenham to take the 10 million they got from the Chinese club and sell Moussa because he was shot and he had been shot for a long time. But when Tottenham could get him on the pitch, phenomenal. So dominant. I used to turn up for games. It's the only player I've ever had this with where there'd be a doubt about him and you'd see him in the team and I'd know we was going to win. And if he wasn't in the team, I'd know he was going to get beat. Just dominate a football match for us. Tottenham have not been able to dominate football matches since Dembele went. So I know there's a lot of people say, oh, Eriksen's creativity. But Dembele gave Tottenham a platform against any side on the planet that they could dominate a game. And he would just get 20, 30 yards up the pitch. If he could have added goals to his game, he would have been a superstar player. I'm sure you would have seen, as many people would have seen, sort of videos of, who's the best player at Tottenham, like from his colleagues and stuff.
Everyone
says Moussa Dembele. It's ridiculous. Every single one of them always would say Moussa Dembele. Oh, you just can't get near him. It's untouchable. I think there were times where he didn't realize how good he was.
Agree.
Because he was a phenomenal player. He could go to Old Trafford, Stamford Bridge, run the game. I mean, his performance in Turin, which was his hip was already done by this point in the last 16, the Champions League in 18. I want to say I might have 2018. It was phenomenal. 2-0 down in 10 minutes, and he just grabbed the game. Went, I'm not having this. And he dominated the football match in Turin against, I think Juventus went on to the final that year, or they'd been finalists the year before, but were an even better team than obviously what they are now. Phenomenal. But that was his last great performance for Tottenham, was in Turin, and he wasn't really recovering after that. He couldn't really play twice a week. But when he played, it was like a little bit like Ledley. I'd have just saved him for the big games, to be honest, right? And kept him. I would argue now, like if his two legs are attached, getting back, he's better than what we've got.
Yeah.
Because he just had that swagger about him. He wasn't brilliantly technically, in terms of, like, he wasn't a great passer. Anything over 20 yards, honestly, was a little bit of a problem for him. But he was unlike any other footballer I've ever seen. He was so dominant, so definitely the most underrated player in this team.
Yeah. Do you think? Sorry, before you go to Modders, sorry.
Go on. Modders?
Do you think Dembele could? Sorry, he's my mate. Did you know?
It's Luca to me. Rat boy is what I called him after he left, actually, in fairness.
Yeah, I know, right? What bastard. So before we go to Modric, with Dembele, do you think he could have played a bit more advanced, like more that Yaya Toure kind of burst through? I always felt like he could have been more. Does that make sense?
Yes and no. Well, I mean, part of the deal was with Pochettino. It took Pochettino a long time to find the right place for him. And some of these things is interesting, both with Dembele and Modric, them actually playing as kind of central midfielders. In both of their cases, kind of came about because of accident, actually. Yeah. Dembele was in and out the team because of injuries the first year. We actually went, just what I remember, we actually went 18 months at one point without losing the game when he played more than an hour.
Yep.
Dembele. And that's what I meant in terms of if he played, great. The year we finished second to Leicester, we lost 6 games. The only one he played more than an hour was opening day of the season at Old Trafford, and he played on a right wing in a 4-2-3-1 because Pochettino just couldn't figure out how to get the best of him. And then eventually he played him in the 10 position in sort of September, October of that year. And he actually got a few goals. He scored a goal against Villa that people might remember because Mike Dean pointed his finger and celebrating. He scored a goal against Bournemouth. He scored an absolute screamer against Anderlecht in Europa League. And you thought a little bit like that, oh, maybe the goals are in this player. Yeah. And then Eric Dyer had started this really good relationship in midfield with Ryan Mason. Dyer had been the centre-back and a full-back the year before, went into midfield. Mason got injured, and then Bentaleb fell out of favour, and Dyer got suspended for a home game against Liverpool. And Pochettino had to play Dembele and Dele Alli as the central midfielders against Liverpool. And this was Jurgen Klopp's first game for Liverpool, which finished 0-0. Yeah. And I wouldn't say Dembele set the world alight in that game, and actually Liverpool should have won the game. But Pochettino realised that he could trust him in that position. Like, he looked after Dele, who was a kid, had to go and play deeper as well. And he bossed the game. He never looked back from there. And then when he played with Dyer the rest of that year, and even more so when he played with Wanyama the year afterwards, phenomenal. I mean, we became such a difficult team to play against. And Dembele's relationship with originally Dyer and then particularly with Wanyama, Wanyama was a sad loss as well because he just fell off because of injuries as well. He was phenomenal the first season for Tottenham. We became so difficult to play against, but we could play as well because he'd dominate for us. And Modric came about playing central midfield by a similar accident. So in 08-09, he was basically bought as a 10. Didn't really work out. That was the 2 points from 8 season. He finished the season not too badly. And then in 9-10, he started like a train playing on the left of midfield. Phenomenal. We beat Liverpool at home. We won 5-1 in the week at Hull. We won at West Ham at the weekend. Then we beat Birmingham in the fourth game. So we won the first 4 games. Still weren't top of the league. I think Chelsea were on like plus 12 or something like that at the time, going crazy stuff. But Modric got injured in that game against Birmingham. And people forget, like, Modric was out for 3-4 months. He didn't return until we beat West Ham again. I think it was either Boxing Day or the 28th of December. But Modric went back and played left or right midfield. And obviously the accident kind of opened up because of a couple of reasons. One, because of Bale suddenly got the chance, but Bale got the chance at left back and actually played left back for most of sort of January to March period. He covered for Benoit Asuakoto because he went to the African nations and then kept his place. Imagine I told you that now in hindsight. Bale played left back and Modric played left midfield. But they were dynamite, right? Modric would come inside and Bale would just have the flank for himself. We played Portsmouth in the Cup semi-final in April. This was the Portsmouth team in administration. And typical Tottenham don't turn up and lose 2-0 in extra time to the worst team in the league. But Palacios gave away a penalty near the end of the game and picked up his 10th booking, which meant he was suspended for Arsenal at home and Chelsea at home. And we thought we were going to get crucified. But he brought Asuakoto back into the team, but Bale to left midfield and put Modric in midfield with Huddleston. And once Modric went into the centre, he never played anywhere else after that because he was too good. What a gem of a footballer. I mean, to be honest, in so many ways, very different to Dembele in terms of his elegance, his ball possession. He's another one who would dictate the game of a football match, but for very different reasons. Modric would keep the ball for fun. Dembele would keep it through sheer strength and physicality. Modric was just a joy to watch. What a player. I mean, he's gone to prove on, obviously, what he's done at Madrid, still playing for Madrid. What a brilliant footballer he's been. I mean, he'll go down as a legend at Real Madrid.
Oh, hands down. And he got a Ballon d'Or, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the only one to break it, isn't it? The Ronaldo, Messi over the last 12 years or so.
Precisely, yeah. He got it in 2018.
I mean, I would have given that to Hugo Lloris personally, but I'm just biased.
No, we can't have that. Let's go to my favourite ever football player, Tottenham player, Bale. And it's funny you were talking about the left back thing, because I think Bale's first Tottenham goal was against Arsenal in 2008 with that free kick down the left. Yeah. So what he's become has just been absolutely incredible. So
show your age, right? 2006 it was 17. He was when he scored that free kick against Arsenal. He scored against Arsenal with Fulham. Yeah, 2006. I won't bring up what the final score was because you battered the second half. Yeah, he scored Arsenal at home after scoring at Fulham away. He'd made his debut at Old Trafford. This was all on the left-hand side of midfield. Got an injury after the Arsenal game.
Yeah.
And ironically, from the goal against Arsenal in 2006, the next league goal he scored for Tottenham was in a 2-1 win against Arsenal in 2010, in that same game that Modric went and played centre midfield. Jeez. All that time, he never scored a league goal for Tottenham because of injuries.
Yeah.
It basically didn't exist for Tottenham for a couple of years. There was the long record of the 29 games. I mean, how was that even possible to play 29 games, 29 Premier League games for Tottenham and he didn't win? How is that possible?
Yeah, like appearances. It's not like starts, it's just appearances. Get on the pitch.
The game that broke the streak was we were playing Burnley at home. It was 5-0 up. And Bale was a substitute in that 9-10 season. And I can't remember who it was that Redknapp was going to bring on, but the whole ground booed. Just get Bale on the pitch and get rid of this thing. We're 5-0 up. He can't ruin it, surely. Just get him on the pitch. But I mean, that season he went to a different stratosphere. And I was blessed to be in the San Siro for the hat-trick against Inter Milan. Wow. And then his performance in the home game was even better.
Outrageous. He got 2 goals in that game as well, didn't he?
In the home game, no, he didn't score. He assisted goals for Crouch and Pavlyuchenko. He didn't score that night. But I mean, that's up there with one of the greatest individual Tottenham performances of all time, not just in my lifetime, but any Tottenham fan's lifetime. Yeah. Phenomenal. And to do it on the top stage against European champions, he just absolutely exploded. He went from this geeky kid who had pace and ability to then this raw power. And I mean, even as his years developed, like the player that left Tottenham, and then you see this kind of bastion physique player that played in the Champions League finals for Madrid. How has this happened? Another one who suffered terribly because of injuries. And obviously, Bale's not in this team because of what he did on loan last year. Although he still scored about 15
So
goals.
we still got 9 league goals in 14 games. It's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Don't get me started on how much he was used last year. Although a lot of it was Gareth's fault as well. But yeah, you mentioned the 12-13 season.
Oh my God.
I mean, it was ridiculous. It was scoring like goal of the month contender every week. Phenomenal. The
goalie got against West Ham is actually iconic for me. It's iconic.
It's one of my favourite ever Tottenham goals. Yeah, I call it the jukebox goal because I ended up underneath one when that goal went in the pub. Absolutely brilliant. But he's right up there with one of my favourite ever Tottenham goals. It's probably that and the Lucas Moura, but the Bale goal against West Ham is the cheek of it and the quality, the demanding to receive a 2-yard pass from Tom Carroll. And literally saying in the 94th minute, I'm going top bin. And to do it with the power and the bend that he does it, Gascoigne in goal had no chance. And it wasn't a one-off for him that season. It was becoming ridiculous.
Yeah.
He'd go over free kicks and you'd be like, it's a goal before he even takes it. If he hits the target, scored. I remember a game against Lyon, and he had a free kick. He'd already scored one in the game early in the first half. Injury time, he's got another one on the edge of the box. And he didn't even hit it that well, but the whole ground knew he was going to score.
Yeah.
It was phenomenal. That's the best individual season from a Tottenham player. Untouchable. At that point that he left Tottenham, he was, for me, the third best player in the world. And quite rightly, he had to go. He couldn't not be playing Champions League football. And his 10-11 season and the way he finished 9-10 were phenomenal as well. He suffered injuries in 11-12. That was always a case for him, unfortunately. But 12-13 was a joke. And it really was one-man team. We talk about Kane and Son now. I mean, for Bale then, it was even worse. Bale very nearly got that team in the Champions League by himself.
I'm before we go to the next one, Gascoigne. I'm not just flirting with you with this. Is that seriously?
You can flirt with me if you want, but the missus might watch it and might have a word, mate.
And mine as well. Gareth Bale that season, and Suarez in 13-14, I want to say, and Henry. And Henry in 03-04. Honestly, those are the three. And Ronaldo in 07-08. Those are like the 4 best individual seasons I've ever seen from a player. Like, Bale was untouchable. And a question I had for you, do you think he'll go... I mean, he scored in 2 Champions League finals. Do you think he will go as a legend, such as Modric, or do you think there's just too much?
At Madrid?
Yeah. 2 Champions League final goals, man.
I don't see why not. I mean, I think it's only him and Ronaldo have actually scored more than 2 goals in Champions League finals since the rebrand in 1992.
Yes.
So, I mean, he scored twice against Liverpool and obviously scored against Atletico in 14, the first year that he left Tottenham as well. So, and I mean, yeah, the goal in the final against Liverpool is worthy of it alone, isn't it?
Oh my
I
God.
don't mean the one that Karius dropped, obviously.
They're both memorable, James.
That's one of the greatest goals in Champions League final history, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's got to be. Get Wales as well, and I realised it wasn't one-man team. There's other good players, but he got his home country to a major tournament semi-final when they hadn't been in a major tournament for like 50 years or so.
Yep.
So I think absolutely he'll go down as Wales' greatest ever players. I mean, Welsh people can say whether he is or isn't the best, but he's got to be right up there. I think obviously Madrid fans have got very frustrated with what happens there, but then they do with everybody. Madrid and Barca fans are the same, right? You're the best in the world one week, but if you're shit, you're shit, and that's it, and it's over. And obviously Gareth is not the player, as we all saw last year. He's not the player from 12-13 or even 15-16 or whatever. But yeah, I think it has to be. I'm sure when it finishes, they'll go, yeah, do you know what? He was all right, actually. They've got to, surely.
Yeah, I agree. Jesus, just give me...
What do you need to do?
I don't know. No, but I don't think he's appreciated in Madrid. I mean...
Well, I think there's been a lot of frustration and obviously the whole goal for Madrid thing and all that didn't help matters, and they're a touchy bunch, aren't they? You can tell Florentino Perez that I said that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Paul Gascoigne. I mean, he's the only one. Interesting, you said off camera before we started. I mean, the majority of the rest of these players actually have played together in some form. That some have missed each other by a year or two, like Ledley King missed Dembele and Loris by a year. But I think other than that, Ledley would have played with everybody else except for Gascoigne, and even Ledley would have played with Ginola. Gascoigne was a phenomenon, incredible, and he lifted football in this country. He part helped the boom of what football is now with the Premier League and stuff, despite not being a part of it because of England's performance, obviously in Italia '90, and he was the centerpiece of it. Yeah. And then the following year, there was the cup final after his performance against Arsenal in the semi. I mean, how many players leave Wembley on a stretcher, and that's the main story from an FA Cup final. The sale of him kind of in the end helped save Tottenham because they were in big financial problems at the time. I only got to see him for the 1 year, the 1991 season, which was my first year as a season ticket holder. It's ridiculous the way he'd carry a ball, so much ability. He should have gone on to become the best player in the world.
I agree.
But he didn't because of injuries, and the injuries obviously didn't help the off-field stuff. His addictions and stuff are obviously well documented, and it's sad that he didn't become the player that he should have, yet he's still held in such high regard by everybody in this country. I think even Gooners would say it and go, wow, yeah, Paul Gascoigne. Like you hear he's not well sometimes and everybody gets a bit worried and stuff.
Yeah.
What a player. It wasn't anything, like I said, you could have put him back in the two in midfield here. Yeah. In the modern day, you could play him as a false nine. That's probably what Guardiola would do with him. You know that. You'd probably play him as a false nine. Could do anything with a football. And when he ran at people, he had this amazing ability to like arm people off. People just couldn't get near him when he ran with the ball. Technique, phenomenal. 50, 60-yard passes. Anything. He was an elite player at the time when actually English football around 1991 didn't have too many elite players. He was one of the standouts. Sir Alex Ferguson's still pissed off about it to this day that he signed for Tottenham rather than United. Even that story is a joke in itself. You should go and research that if you're not aware of it. Unbelievable player. And sad that, I mean, what do we all think of? If I said to you Gascoigne, what do you think of first?
The Scotland goal.
Not the Germany miss. Depends. I think it depends what type of fan you are. But yeah, there's the Scotland goal and the Germany miss. And I personally really, the way he shrugged off the Dutch in the 4-1 victory as well.
Oh my God.
Phenomenal.
Still the best I've ever seen England play, man. Ever.
The Holland game.
Ever. That 4-1, yeah, it was out. Unbelievable.
Probably.
I almost felt from bell to bell we were just phenomenal in that game.
Probably. Do you want me to let you know into a little secret that no one knows from that night?
No one listens to this, mate. Don't worry, go ahead.
Holland had a higher XG.
Really? you got to send me that. Send me the info, please.
I promise you that's legit. Holland had a higher XG that night.
Holy crap.
So
you get lost in it.
I think
you get lost in it, don't you?
I think my favourite would probably be the Germany 5-1 was something from although it was a qualifier, that was properly shocking that night.
So
I've completely ruined Ray's best ever England performance. Listen, XG is not always correct, and England well deserved to win that night.
I mean, I was 11. I was 11 at the time. Oh shit! See, even my camera can't take it.
I'll send you something, Ray. I promise you that's correct.
All right, hold on. Let me just fix this quickly. Yeah, let me fix it. Let me just. All right, just give me a sec. This is great. You can still hear me, can't you, pal?
No.
Okay. I'm not even going to edit it. I'm just going to leave all the shit on. Okay.
Leave it be, mate.
While I'm fixing this, please, if you could talk a bit about Ginola.
Because he was worth it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think this is probably the one that now Sonny's getting close to warranting inclusion instead, I think. But I just for a couple of years, David Ginola carried Tottenham in our hearts in a really, really average football team. He won Player of the Year, which I know really upsets Man United fans in the year that they won the treble. Admittedly, the voting is a lot earlier. So had the voters known that probably United were going to win the treble, he probably wouldn't have got the award. But I think it speaks volumes for the fact that he did win it. Some would argue that, well, because there were so many good players at United, it split the vote a bit as well. But he was phenomenal. You have to remember, he came in, and in that season, 98-99, he'd had a really good finish to 97-98. And then obviously George Graham came in 2 months into the season, and it was like, he's gone, he's finished. But he worked a system, Graham, that literally did just allow Ginola to do what he wanted from the left flank, which is such a weird phenomenon, or at least it was then, to have so much bias to attack down one side. I mean, the role of the left fullback was literally support him, don't go past him, give him the ball, and let him go and win the game. And he was well capable of it. Phenomenal talent. I mean, ironically as well, him and Son would be the two players who I've seen who you could second guess whether they were left or right footed.
Agree.
Both were right footed, but you often wouldn't know it. David, I've seen David take free kicks with his left foot just because goalkeeper's out of position. I remember a goal at Barnsley in a game we lost, actually. He took a free kick with his left foot just because it was there, because he could. I mean, imagine that. Brilliant top player, amazing skill. Yes, he was a liberty. Yes, he was a bit of a luxury. But I reckon in the midfield, I've got to look after him. But Sonny, I think if you ask me again in a couple of years, Ray, there's every chance Sonny would overtake. Because the one thing with David was he didn't score as many goals as he should have.
Agree.
Nowhere near enough. And Sonny is posting some ridiculous data stuff now. So I think if you ask me in a couple of years, there's every chance Sonny will be in it, which is then the irony to say, oh, your all-time front three would be the exact front three that you had last season. Yep, that's correct. But I had Jose Mourinho, unfortunately, so shit happens. David was brilliant. He carried a very bad team, and he made it worth going to support Tottenham. There's a clip of a game we played. We played Watford at home on Boxing Day the following year, 99-0-0. And my dad's on Match of the Day losing his shit. He's losing his shit because at 3-0 up, Graham took Ginola off. Now, these days, we'd all be like, well, yeah, save him for the next game in 3 days. Yeah. But if Ginola wasn't on the pitch, it wasn't worth being there, Ray. That was the point. Might as well go home. I'm now watching like a midfield of like Freund, Sherwood, Leonard,
Freud,
yeah, and like Alan Nielsen or something like that. It's like, I mean, that was basically when Darren Andon wasn't fit. That was kind of the sort of midfield that would be with Ginola. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, it really was a one-man team.
And then spearing this incredible team, pal, is Harry Kane.
He's not straightforward because I mean, this is one position all through the years. Nearly always Tottenham have had a good striker to go through. Lineker, Sheringham, Klinsmann, onto Robbie Keane, Defoe, Berbatov, and then obviously the Kane. I mean, yeah, the names you're leaving out there. I'm sure I've forgotten a couple of very good ones as well, especially Gregor's Raziak. Kane's the best of the lot, though. If it wasn't Kane, honestly, I would have gone with Berbatov.
Yes,
phenomenal.
Was he close to this team? But it would have been a formation breaker, obviously.
If I went 2 up front, it'd be in it, yeah.
Okay. Who would you drop out? Ginola?
It wouldn't really work system-wise. Unless you played a flat 3 and played Bale at 10. And then I just think you'd be taking the piss with the system.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Then it's a FIFA team.
Basically, yeah. I've picked a team that I think would win the league.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been Berbatov. Berbatov, ridiculous talent. Lazy.
Oh, yeah.
But so good. I mean, Ginola was late. Ginola was lazy as well. It's possibly a little win for. Can you have Ginola and Berbatov in the same team? Which we did see one night actually at Ledley King's testimonial, which was a bit of fun. The ball, it was like the higher the ball went in the air, the better Berbatov's touch was. And his two best performances for Tottenham were games that probably people outside of Tottenham don't remember. We played a game against Bolton. We won 4-1. Berbatov didn't even score. We were 3-0 up inside about 15 minutes. And this was in the middle of Berbatov and Keane were having their moment. Keane got sent off for a handball on the line. Bolton scored from the penalty. And they weren't bad at the time, Bolton. They were a half-decent team. And so we went to like 4-4-1, which is what everybody kind of did. And Berbatov played like 2 men. It was like, oh, right, with 10 men, I've got to work my nuts off. And another similar thing happened. We played Man City away. The first year City got the money. We played them away in the League Cup quarterfinal. Zakora got sent off after, I think, 12 minutes. And we were 1-0 up, the same thing. Berbatov just held the ball up and ran rings around them all night long on his own. Phenomenal. And we won 2-0. And he didn't score in either of those 2 games, ironically. And those were his best 2 performances for Tottenham. So when he had to put it in, he put it in. But him and David they were both chain smokers. Massive. You wouldn't get away with it in quite the same way now. But Burbs was a phenomenal talent. Harry is the best because he's got everything. And the goals numbers are just unmatched by anybody else.
Yeah.
Of all those good strikers that Tottenham have had, you could make a case to say that technically he's one of the poorest, which sounds mad because the way he strikes a football is unlike any other players. Is why he keeps having this ankle injury. He rolls his ankle when he shoots. Like, I don't know how he maintains balance. It's phenomenal. But there's sometimes everybody has it. You watch Kane sometimes, you think he's not on it. He looks a bit clumsy. And he's got to where he's got to through sheer persistence and hard work. And to be in a position where he's only I think it's about 40 goals off Jimmy Greaves' record now for Tottenham, which is a record that no one's ever thought would be broken. And should he stay for another 2 years, he will break it. He might not though. But Kane is the right person to be in this team, and he will go down as an icon, a legend of Tottenham, whatever happens next.
Do you think he'll stay for another season?
I didn't think he stayed. I didn't think he stayed. No, it's a fair question. I didn't think he stayed this year, Ray. And you'll probably know because you've listened to me for a good while. I said he should have left last summer, the year before, because this team's not good enough for his quality. Harry Kane should not be playing Thursday night football. I'm not stupid. And if he stays at Tottenham next season, he's probably going to be playing Thursday night football again. And that's not right. The only reason I can see him staying now is if City decides to go down a different route next year, which they might, because there's a couple of players will become available. Haaland is obviously one, potentially.
For a lot cheaper, yeah.
And it might be that if Haaland ends up going to Bayern Munich, it might be going into Guardiola's last season. I wouldn't be surprised if they look at Robin Lewandowski for a season, very short term. Because where's he going to go? They're talking about this being his last year at Bayern. And Guardiola will obviously know Lewandowski as well. And obviously, if he's going into his last season, Guardiola's not bothered. It's just short term, right? Go and win the trophies and stuff. And it could be, if that's the case, that it falls that way where Haaland and Lewandowski, say Haaland goes to Bayern and Lewandowski ended up at City or something, then where does Kane go?
Nowhere.
I wouldn't see him going to PSG.
Yeah.
I don't think at his age he goes to Newcastle, even if they did start going silly with the money. I don't see that personally, because by the time it hits the level, they'll be moving past Kane and wanting to get the next best forward, I should imagine. So I think by default, there's a possibility that he'll stay. I think Tottenham and Daniel Levy have a kind of a belief in this as well, that like next year they won't lower the price. I think if 130 to 140 came in next year, they'd probably accept it. They've clearly gone back on this gentleman's agreement with Harry Kane. But then if Harry Kane believed there was a gentleman's agreement, then he's pretty naive, considering Daniel Levy's business with other players, including Luka Modric, in previous years. So by default, he could end up staying. And then again, next summer as well, what if he gets 30 goals this year and he's only, say, 10 goals off Jimmy Greaves' record? That's a big pull, because if he breaks that, he becomes like immortal at Tottenham, and then he really can do what he wants. Then if he gets into the last year of his contract, you start looking at him, he's like 31 now. Does anyone want to spend? Because even with a year left on his contract, Tottenham wouldn't let him go for much short of like 80 or so, I don't imagine. Even with just like a year left. Because if Kane got Tottenham into the Champions League, that's your money. That's your 80 million or so. And I think even down to end of contracts, Tottenham would maybe even believe at that stage that by the end they'll offer Kane more money than other clubs might do, because the other club's interest might have gone. I don't think Kane's going to stay at the top in the way, say, like Lewandowski has. Lewandowski's arguably got better with age. I don't see Kane at the top level going crazy at 35. And he's made plenty of noises that he'd like to go and be a kicker in the NFL and stuff like that anyway. And also, I don't think he wants to leave the Premier League because of the Shearer record, right?
Agree. Yep. 100%.
He wants that as well. And there's no doubt he wanted to go to City, but City let him down. City never offered more than 100 million for him, so it was never going to happen. Partly because they might have got told, like, literally, don't bother, go away. But City really could have put the pressure on. They didn't.
Brilliant, James. So we'll get to the community questions where we have had a ton of good ones, a couple of silly ones which I've left out as well. But first we'll go
question.
Mate, this is where you make the big bucks, man. You took the line away from me, Sebastian. I was going to say,
really
this is where the man makes the bucks.
It's really not. It's the Tottenham podcast on Patreon, mate.
I download it when there's a loss for both teams. I'm just going to say that now.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, when you're both winning, it's too cordial. I don't like it. But anyway, this is from FPL Sonaldo, Andy from South Korea. So, annyeonghaseyo, my friend. Question for James. With wildcard 8 in mind, thoughts on Son and Hwang? So Hwang is also South Korean. So
I'd noticed the theme here. For me, neither on wildcard 8. I can see where Hwang might work into people's kind of flip-flop. The idea, I don't know, if you've got people at his price, Decore's price, that kind of thing. If you're picking, say, 12 starters, you can make a week-to-week decision. I think the problem with Hwang is if you get it wrong, the escape might be quite difficult. Because you've got to go up to sort of at least Tony's level or so, haven't you? Which I realise is not that much, but actually, when you're on wildcard, you tend to end up using all the money, right? So if suddenly he's out the team and you need to make a quick decision, it might not be straightforward to move that on. Sonny, I intend to get in 12. Okay. And to be honest, I intend to get Harry Kane in that game week as well. Because Tottenham have a brilliant 4 fixtures. Leeds at home, Burnley away, Brentford at home, Norwich at home. Where I might even captain Harry for all 4 of them game weeks, possibly. And I know I intend to wildcard in 16, personally. If I was wildcarding now, I'd possibly work Son in. Hwang wouldn't be for me. I haven't seen enough. To convince me. I realise he's a very good talent. Those in the know, probably as FPL Sonaldo is more than I am, think he's a really good talent. What I've seen so far is a goal against Watford and 2 goals against Newcastle.
Brilliant.
And that doesn't tell me a lot for what he's going to do at Aston Villa this week.
Yeah, but also he's got a yeah. Go on. After you.
Well, it's competition as well, right? Trincao, Traore, and Podence,
and then eventually Neto as well. So he's got like 4. You got maybe 5 players vouching for
Neto. I mean, that's not going to be an issue for a very long time. So he wouldn't worry. Neto won't play until 2022. I've heard it might not even be to sort of March time. So that's not an issue, unfortunately. He's a top player. So, yeah, he wouldn't need to worry about that. And obviously, look, if he keeps scoring goals, he'll probably stay in the team. But when Traore and Trincao were left out at Southampton the other week, that came as a bit of a shock. No one saw that coming. So what's to say that won't change again? I think Bruno Lage is still trying to find the team that he likes. One thing they might do is change to 3 attackers behind Jimenez, or even possibly play Hwang right up front with Jimenez and play sort of Traore and Trincao, because all the noises in the summer were that they wanted to play 4-2-2-2. Yeah. Should they go back to that, that would make Hwang far more interesting. I would need to see a bit more personally. I think if I was wildcarding right now, front 3 for me would be Lukaku, Antonio, and I would probably have a 1-week placeholder for Tony. I'd look at someone like Morpay.
Right. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Next question. From FPL Osama. Oh my God, another FPL question. Come on, James, man. What do you expect? FPL, man.
FPL questions is what I expect.
Sorry, man. Sorry. Can't wait for this. Thoughts about taking hits for non-wildcarders to match the wildcard template. So, example for this is his team: Jota, Mendy, and Omobamidele. Thank you. For Lukaku, let's say Diaz, ESR/TAA.
So what we looking to do here?
So he wants to take out Jota, Mendy, and the Norwich guy. For Lukaku, another City defender, and ESR/TAA. I don't think he's got his stuff right there, because there are 4 players to bring in and 3 players to take out. Pretty much. Would you take hits to match the template team? I think that's
I'm guessing he's probably looking at, if he didn't go City defender, he's going TAA, which would then mean Smith Rowe, possibly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's maybe. No, I'm not. There's nothing wrong with taking hits. There's a time and a place to do it. Like when I got the news that Rafinha was going to play just before deadline, and I knew Harrison was out, and I felt it was worth doing. And I'd not done it then, I've still been sitting there with Jack Harrison in the team going, I think you'll play this week, and going, I can't get to Rafinha. So there's definitely times you should do it to fix your team. I think doing it just to match a template, nah. I think you always want to be close to a template, but at some point you've got to move away from it somewhere. You're just constantly chasing the template. You're never going to beat it. The best FPL managers will make the template before the template happens, right? So just following it with hits, you're 4 points behind everyone else.
Brilliant. Next one. Oh, brilliant. All right, finally. So this is from Just Gabe, FPL Lens, who I did a video with about Real Madrid. Fantastic guy. James, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what has held Spurs back since the sale of Modric in 2012 and Bale in 2013. Is it a question of scouting, development, Levy, managers? Cheers, fellas. Really looking forward to watching this chat. All of the above.
Yeah, I'll go through the points. I mean, one thing it's worth saying is obviously since Tottenham sold Modric and Bale in those 2 years, there was a case to be made that other than Cole Walker in 18, which Pochettino supposedly wanted rid of, no big player has been sold. And I think you would say £50 million for right back Cole Walker was a lot of money at the time. Particularly when Pochettino had Kieran Trippier there in reserve, quite happy to go as well. And unfortunately, Trippier had a bad season, a bad couple of years following that. Didn't play to his England ability for Tottenham, unfortunately. So in terms of holding us back, I'm not sure if that's kind of laced towards we haven't bought those sort of players since before, because obviously, I mean, Pochettino came in 14, and then that was the best 4 or 5 years or so that we've had since the 60s team.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say it's held back in any way because of Modric and Bale leaving at that time. Daniel Levy always holds us back. He believes in his mind he's always doing the right thing for Tottenham Hotspur. And maybe he is, because we're not in there and we can't see the financial implications. But he's certainly lost the trust of the fans after the Super League stuff and the recent manager. I mean, to be honest, all of his managerial appointments, bar he lucked out with Harry Redknapp because it was the right person at the right time. And he lucked out with Pochettino as well. All his other managerial appointments have been shocking. And the transfer business has been bad for a while. And that's what kind of really annoys me is, and I don't know if this is where Gabriel's lacing the question, because Modric was obviously bought from Dynamo Zagreb, who people knew because he was phenomenal for Croatia on the mud heap pitch against England at Wembley, but wasn't kind of globally known. And Bale was obviously bought as a 17-year-old. And a lot of the players that Tottenham bought in the noughties were all young, generally British, but occasional ones like Modric who weren't. You go and make the stars rather than try and Tottenham can't buy stars. Like if Haaland comes up, Tottenham can't buy Haaland. It's a waste of time. Tottenham could offer the most money. Haaland still wouldn't come. Doesn't make a difference. You need to go and buy that player from Red Bull Salzburg before he goes to Dortmund, right? Compete with that level. You can't go and compete with it now. So Tottenham need to go and make stars rather than buy stars. And that's what Tottenham did. I mean, the team that finished in the Champions League places in 2010 included people like Michael Dawson, who was bought from Nottingham Forest, Tom Huddleston, who was bought from Derby County, Gareth Bale was bought from Southampton, Modric, Aaron Lennon was bought for a packet of crisps from Leeds, Defoe from West Ham when they were in the Championship. It wasn't lavish spending that got us there. It bought a great group of players who had the potential to develop and did. And actually, the same thing happened in the Pochettino team that did very well. How much did we pay for Eric Dyer, Dele Alli? I mean, these are all cheap signings, the best ones, right? So I don't know why Tottenham seem to have moved away from that strategy of not going and like when I see people like Ebi Eze go to Crystal Palace last summer, it's the sort of one that annoys me.
Yeah,
I don't think why. What? Because I know that probably give it 2 years, Tottenham will be interested in that player, and it's too late. Go and take the chance on him from QPR. If it doesn't work and he's not ready for whatever, fine. Send him out on loan to another Premier League club, so to a Crystal Palace, which Palace like doing is taking people like Conor Gallagher and stuff anyway, Ruben Loftus-Cheek previously. Send him there on loan, but go and buy the player in the first place. So I think when Daniel Levy talks about identity again, that's what Tottenham need to do. It's how we're spending the money has been wrong for a very long time. I think that answers all of it.
Brilliant. As always,
see
man,
how
as always.
see how I do more detail on Tottenham than FPL.
Oh, okay. Well, congrats on it from FF Cami. Congrats on the 1K. Luckily, we passed that. It's brilliant. Your best all-time favorite FPL players, James?
I'm only going to name Spurs players here, aren't I? So to be honest, Kane, Son, Bale.
Yeah,
they'd be the guys really. I mean, Suarez that season you mentioned was ridiculous.
unbelievable.
Robin van Persie before that, but I can't have that as a favourite. It was phenomenal.
Came out of nowhere that season because he couldn't stay fit for like 10 games, and then
obviously Salah more recently, so obviously a fairly obvious one. Although there's been many occasions where I've not enjoyed him, but certainly do at the moment. He's bang on form at the moment.
Fantastic. And I think, last question from Jay, Stadium of Sports. Does a roundup show with FPL Juice. The best voice on podcasts, absolutely. James is all right as well.
He don't listen to much, does he?
In pre-season, you had I asked this question to Serge as well when I had him. In pre-season, you had expert guests giving their knowledge on FPL. Has this changed how you are playing this season? We'll go one by one. You had a few fantastic guests.
Yeah, we had a brilliant list of guests with like Mark and Az, Tom from Who Got the Assist, Andy from Let's Talk, and Mark FPL General all came on for a week with us. And the first thing I realised, they're all better FPL managers than me, right? So you've got to understand what you learn. The main theme was in terms of calm. It felt like a lot. I don't make rash decisions, and one of the key messages was if you've got a problem in your team, fix the problem. And one of the regular trends you'll hear me and Serge talk about, and we did a lot on our Sky pods and are doing a lot more on our FPL pods now, is the need versus the want. Yeah. Many of the decisions are want decisions rather than you don't need to make that transfer. Like the player you're selling could outscore the player you're buying this week. Just have a think. Does it need to be a -4 now when that player could do better than the player you're bringing in this week? So that kind of thing can always happen if you're saying the player that's fit anyway, of course. But I think it's kind of lent into my strategy anyway, which is I'm quite calm. Like this week, I take no notice of what's going on with the internationals and the injuries and stuff. The best thing to do is switch off, look at the situation I'll make a decision on Thursday and then wait for the final team news on Friday. And if that hasn't affected anything, then you follow through on the decision and that's it. Can't be swayed by the last minute stuff.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%.
I mean, that's really that time when I heard Rafinha was in the team for Leeds at Newcastle on that Friday night game. That's the only time I've ever made a transfer during one of my deadline streams since I've been doing them.
Sound strategy, man. For stress levels as well.
Just make a decision, get wrong with it.
Agree.
It does help me doing them deadline streams. I know I'm going to put my team up like an hour before deadline. Everyone looks at it and they know I'm not going to change it, so I'm not swayed.
Class. What kind of Premiership manager would you be? And I've always been actually curious about this. A concoction?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, yeah, it's probably. I think style wise, I want to say Pochettino, even though he's not there. I really, that's how I'd want my teams to play. I think of the ones in the league at the moment, I would probably be. Are we talking about how our teams play or just how we behave?
However you want to interpret the question, my bad.
I think how I would want my team to play would probably be like Liverpool.
Amazing.
Would I be like Klopp on the touchline? No, I wouldn't. I probably would be more like Sean Dyche, yeah.
What would be your formation for your team? I know it's not there, but it's my question.
I'm a 4-2-3-1 head generally, I think, because that's the influence of the Pochettino era.
Fantastic. Number 3, if Son was at Liverpool, would he be better than Salah? Wow.
No.
Would he be better than Mane? Okay,
possibly,
wait. Before you answer that
yes.
question, before you answer that question, I think he is a better player than
Mane. I think Mane seems to be one for whatever reason, and maybe because we kind of entrenched in fantasy circles of thoughts. But it does feel like if he's not getting attacking returns, everyone suddenly thinks he's shit. And I think Sadio Mane is world class. I mean, he's a top footballer. I wouldn't say Son was better than Mane, but would Son get more goals? Probably yes, because Son scores so many variations of goals. He's got all the movement facets that Mane's got, but he will score the bending goal from 25 yards and stuff as well that you don't see Mane get many of. So he'd probably get more goals than Mane. Would he be better for Liverpool? I'm not convinced on that, actually. I mean, Mane's a very good player, and Salah's goals are an absolute given.
Yeah. I mean, I went to Mane, but the question was actually about Salah. I think Salah could be like best player in the league now, actually. And funny enough, I never thought of him that way for some reason. I always went KDB and then Van Dijk. That was kind of like my two, because I always look at players as the best in their positions. That's the kind of
I would
way I
still
think.
maintain that opinion. Kevin De Bruyne's the best player in the league, in my opinion.
Because he can do everything. Well, I heard it the other day from you. There's nothing he cannot do, including a short burst of pace to get away from players. So yeah,
phenomenal. Best all-round player in the league is a joke. When he's on it, and he's not fit at the moment, is it? It's fairly clear. When he's on it, it's phenomenal. And again, don't think of it from fantasy circles. I think on his day, he's the best midfielder anywhere.
Agree, man. Agree. So, final question from someone you know very well. FPL dummy Tom.
He is a dummy as well, isn't
he? also did a video with him. Really top lad, I must say. Really good lad. I made sure to get him on months after they beat us because I'm smart. So where does he think Spurs will end up this season, or has he lost all hope?
I think it might well be very dependent on what we do with that Thursday night competition. I think fourth is not impossible, but I think that applies to 5 or 6 other teams as well, just in case Manchester United decide they're going to have a full-on meltdown, which I don't think they will. And it would be a surprise if United didn't finish top 4. And I'm sure even if they did have a meltdown, they'd sack the manager and then they'd probably have a great run anyway. So I don't see that. So I think 5th is what Tottenham should realistically be aiming for this year. I think, in my opinion, West Ham are stronger than Tottenham. And I think Arsenal are at the moment as well when they've got everyone fit. I think that's like key to the game that no one mentioned a couple of weeks ago. Everybody fit for you makes such a difference.
Yeah. 100%.
So I think I would probably look at it right now and go West Ham 5th, Arsenal 6th. And I think Tottenham would be in competition with, at the moment, probably like Everton for 7th if they can. I mean, Benitez is doing great considering he's without Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin at the moment. Leicester need to get players fit.
Yeah, I was about to ask you.
But their 1 to 11 is far better than ours. They've just had a very inconsistent period and they've got problems defensively at the moment. But I'm a fan of them when they're at their peak. I think they're a good side. I think 7th is probably where we'll finish. And I wouldn't be surprised, like I said, if we get to the final of that Thursday night cup, I wouldn't be surprised if that's like down to sort of 9th, 10th, honestly. And yes, we'll finish above Brentford. And thank you for leaving out the question of have I ever seen Tottenham win the league? Only on FIFA.
Yeah. I'm just not that type of fan.
I appreciate it, Ray.
Absolutely. And you left a very good comment because I'm smart. Yeah, because I want us to do this video, James.
I'd have taken it. You know that, mate.
I know. Before we wrap it up, man, a bit of a different spin. What are your thoughts? Do you enjoy it? Was it all right?
Yes. Yeah, brilliant, mate.
Yeah.
Love it. I'm far more happier talking about, I don't know why I'm happier talking about Tottenham than FPL. I feel like we nearly got through all of this without mentioning me Amsterdam as well, which is like nearly an impossibility. No, I really enjoyed it. Tottenham's, my passion is not, it sounds daft, my passion is not FPL. My passion is Tottenham. And like you said at the start, the FPL interest comes from a passion for football as well. So yeah, it's nice for me to talk about Tottenham. I don't need to plan for anything, and where it's all in there, isn't it? I got 30 years worth of crap football, Ray, stuck in my brain. I can't get rid of it. But that's what matters most to me. To go into the games, like my dad saying to me the other day, like, seriously, why are you going to Everton on a Sunday? Because that's what I want to do. I can't help it. It's what I do. So I love the club, always will, no matter how good or rubbish they are.
Fantastic, James. Absolutely brilliant. And one day when you say James's life as a Spurs fan and you get out in a book, I'm going to be your editor. All right.
I look forward to that day, mate. Can you get someone to write it as well?
Yeah, an oracle, man.
I think I need someone more than an editor, mate. I need a full-time writer, mate.
Fantastic. So before we wrap it up, how and where can I follow you, pal? It's on the banner, but I'll also put it in the YouTube link.
Yeah, on the screen, as I can see. At Planet FPL Pod on Twitter, because some silly dormant account's got Planet FPL, unfortunately. So we got a little pod on the end.
Fantastic. Well, James, thanks a lot, man. Like I said, man, it was you, man, that really got me going into this. I'm gonna take a little bit of a break, celebrate my 1,000. It's the little victories you got to enjoy.
1,000 will become 2,000 before you know it, mate.
I hope so, man. Key part is just to get the football fan out of the FPL player. But how can I top this, man? I got James. I got top. That's it. I'm gonna take a break. You know, who else can I go for?
Who would be a good person to get on? See, all the big FPL accounts, they'll tell you they love FPL more than their clubs anyway. So you've had Serge on, haven't you?
Yeah, Serge, FPL Salah.
Just go through the list of my correspondents. You've had a few of them on, haven't you? Just go through the rest.
I'm taking them down, mate.
Do you know what? Honestly, might be good to give Si a shout about Newcastle, because it's topical at the moment, isn't it? FPL footballer.
Okay, good lad. Yeah. Brilliant. Well, we'll wrap it up there, guys. So thanks so much for hopefully watching. And just keep on rolling, really. And please make sure to follow our Planet FPL Pod. James, Serge, become a Patreon, follow the podcasts, follow the YouTubes. It's absolutely brilliant. Just today, he spilt tea, and I literally spat my own tea out when I saw him do it. It was so funny. It was so funny.
I clipped it
in the context as well of Tony and Lukaku.
What a fool. I mean, did you see when I held up the laptop, the amount of water that was coming off this thing? I mean, water, it was tea. I don't know how it survived. It's only a flimsy thing.
But on that note, guys, so bye from James.
Bye.
Cheers, guys. Take care. God bless.